Hello, it's M at 100% full potential, and it's Christine, who we are going to be getting a low energy from Christine today, so I will be carrying the humor, everybody. Christine, how you feeling?
Like fucking trash, thank you. This is like probably the worst. Like I'm trying my best.
With love, you don't look good.
I know. And I also sat right next to a window and I like have no makeup on or anything. And I sat like directly under like the 2 p.m. sunlight blaring at me. And it looks like I'm death warmed up. Like I look like a corpse today.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
No. I am not. Thanks for asking. I'm really, truly in bad shape, but it's fine.
Christine's having a bit of a flare. And
I am.
Did you not want to share that? Did I just overdo it?
Listen, I share anything and everything. I mean, I think the first week, when I first thought about discussing this today, I was like, oh, I can say, you know, I'm so old now that I'm always sick. But then I remembered that like 2017, the year we started the podcast, we posted photos of you visiting me in the hospital. So apparently I've just been ill for forever.
I think you're just reconciling with the fact that also for someone who's chronically ill, for you to be having the realization now that you're always sick, it's like, yeah, girl, you're chronically ill.
I know, but that's kind of what I was saying the other day. I was like, man, it's just like when it's in remission, you forget like how bad it is. And then suddenly it like shows up and you're like, what is this? And Blaze is like, your partner, who's a little smarter than you sometimes, is like, my love, it's your chronic illness. And you're like, no, couldn't be that. But
you know,
anyway,
go ahead. You take the reins here.
I ate too many dumplings again. And I do this every time. It's the dumpling. It's the second time that I've eaten. Last July, I ate too many dumplings. That's not a joke?
It's really because you're eating dumplings?
No, it's not a joke. Yeah, it's real. In New York, last July, I ate too many dumplings. On the plane, I was like, I think I have the flu. I got home and I had like a bowel obstruction. And it ended up going away after a while, but it was like hell on earth. And then the other day, my dad's partner, who is Chinese, brought like these unbelievable dumplings to our Super Bowl watch party. And I ate a lot of them. And I knew I shouldn't do it, but I did it anyway. And then about 5 a.m, I woke up and thought, wow, I think I have COVID. Like, what could this be?
Christine texted all of us saying, it's without a doubt, it's so bad, it must be COVID. I was like, I don't think I've had 103 plus fever that I like can't get down with like full doses of Tylenol since I had COVID. Like I was like, I cannot get my fever down. I'm so sick. I was like, I might have to go to the hospital. Anyway, it's because I have another partial bowel obstruction. So that's nice. No. Yeah. So basically what happens is that your intestines get so inflamed. Sorry, TMI, everybody. That they kind of constrict and then they can't pass anything. And so they get like blocked, and so oftentimes require surgery. The last time my doctor told me these don't pass on their own, so we're going to require surgery if this is really what's happening. And I said, haha, nice try. And I somehow survived it, so I'm hoping I can do it again. So you're mid bowel obstruction currently.
I'm in some pretty severe pain, but also have a high fever. Not a high fever, mild low grade fever, because it's like this constant, inflammation. So I've just sweat through I wear like 6 shirts a day because I'm like constantly sweating through my clothes. I just feel like I have the flu plus food poisoning at the same time.
Do you just want to record tomorrow, homie?
No, because I thought, oh, well, like, let's record tomorrow. And then I was like, well, shit, I'll probably feel worse tomorrow. I don't know. I was like, I feel okay. I don't know, because I don't think this is just going to go away very quickly. So I was like, I might as well just do it on a day where I'm like functioning-ish. Anyway.
Do you want okay, I know we're mid-recording currently, but like, do you want Eva to hop in and take your place or something?
No,
we can make it work without you.
I will be how dare you? No, I'm kidding. No, I'm totally fine.
If I were in this severe pain, I'd be like, I'm just not going to do it. This is like talking to Taylor Swift, and she's like, "I have the flu, but the show must go on," and I'm like, "Okay, relax."
And what do you say to Taylor Swift? Oh, someone can replace you? I don't think so, Em.
I don't know.
Nice try.
I feel bad. I just feel really bad for you. So,
well,
I don't know,
because it.
I don't know how to keep the party going. If
I'm partying it up. Okay, I took a Tylenol. The thing is, you apparently have to wait 6 hours in between doses of Tylenol. So I've just been setting timers.
This feels like wrong. I shouldn't be making you do this.
Illegal. No. Oh, no. This is fine. This is a nice distraction. Do you know what otherwise I'd be doing is watching Schitt's Creek and just cry. I keep crying because Gio, I think he loves me because he comes to like comfort me, but then I realize he found a goldfish under my pillow. And so I've been crying a lot about that. But otherwise, I'm totally fine. And I might even like take partially this weed gummy that I took for when we recorded Beach GCNE the other day because it's supposedly really good for chronic pain.
Eat the whole thing, Christine.
I might eat the whole thing. And
I'd like to watch you do it right now.
Okay, I didn't take it last. By the way, for everybody who's a square, it's Delta 9. It's federally legal. Okay. But I took one on Beachy Sandy and
eat it.
Just eat it. Okay.
Just eat it. I would like to. All right.
Anyway, I'm ready to go. Good? How are you?
Okay. Like we're not even going to cover.
I'm sorry. I'm really trying to not be a fucking downer. I'm not. I'm just happy to have something positive to do for once. Because you know, Valentine's Day was kind of just spent doing things that maybe
this is the last year where your colon is your Valentine. Maybe.
Maybe it'll go bye. Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe
so then,
time to talk to a doctor.
I made the mistake of Googling like partial bowel obstruction, treatment, and it's like all these pictures of the surgery, and I'm like,
oh,
and they have to like resect your colon, like they like take it apart and then like staple it back together.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound like medieval? I was like, you staple it?
So sometimes I've been to medical history museums and I'm amazed by the technology of like yesteryear. And I'm like, oh, in my mind, this was like super archaic.
Right.
All the way through.
A staple gun to put your intestines together.
Well, yeah, because then now I look at like today's technology, which I think of as so much more advanced than back then.
It's
and
like
I'm like,
robotic.
Oh, it's kind of the same.
Yeah, right. You think it's all like AI and robots. And then it's like, oh, we just take big staples and just chuk, 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 chink, chuk, chink, and you're good.
Well, I get that. I can do that. Just show me, open up your butt.
I'm sure I probably have done that by accident. Anyway, so I'm okay. I mean, I'm fine. I'm much better than I was 2 days ago when I thought this is the end. I told Blaze, this is the end. And he said, you need to stop talking and go to sleep.
Okay. If you think that again, though, you have to go to a hospital, please. You have to go to a hospital.
It's just like, what are they going to do? You know, they're going to be like,
staple your butt apart or something.
I don't want them to staple my butt. I don't.
I will be there for you when it happens, if it happens. But
thank you.
I feel bad. I just feel bad. Okay, well, let's talk about other people who probably felt really bad.
Okay.
So, by the way, do you drink anything?
Oh, yes. Lots of Gatorade. Blaze told me if I hydrate, because I can't eat, because I don't have any appetite. So I'm like, I'm just not able to eat. But he said, if you drink water, make sure it has like something in it, like some salt or some. And I said, how about Gatorade? And he said, fine. Because then your body digests it. It's not just water where it goes like through your stomach is like forced to digest it, which hopefully will help my obstruction get a move on, you know? So
another quick little cue.
Yeah.
What is the plan for next week when we're supposed to be in Pittsburgh and
Canada? Oh, I'll be there. Don't worry.
Oh my. No, hang on. Wait, hang on. Like maybe we should reassess. Are you sure? We could always push it. We could always, I know it's...
No, I'll be fine. It'll go away. It went away last July. It'll go away again. If I have to do surgery, it'll probably be after Pittsburgh anyway, so.
Okay. Well, you heard it here first, Pittsburgh. Okay.
I'll just have to get some painkillers.
Across international borders and
Oh,
Toronto.
True. Yeah, that part. I don't know how that works, but
you know what? Last time you were the homie for me and Eva, and this time because we had our really severe food poisoning. This time we got it. We'll
honestly, I
bring
think
a
I'm
little
in better
wagon.
shape than you. I'm in better shape right now than you two are, because at least I don't have any. Like, I can sit in one place, so at least there's that, right? Like, I feel like I'm winning in that regard. So,
yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm not worried about it. I'm just glad it's not COVID, quite frankly, because it's not contagious.
Okay.
And,
hey, me too.
You know, yeah, that's it. Living the dream. But I'll be there.
This one originally was going to have some deep dives to it, and it ends up not happening. So I guess that worked out for you.
So now
excellent. It'll be a shorter story to endure. This is a classic Whodunnit haunting. This is
a classic Whodunnit haunting.
Mm-hmm.
A classic.
I got no other way to describe it
if
at
I
this
had
point.
A nickel.
So, so this is the Haunting of Isabell Binnington.
It sounds like we already know who done it, but
it sounds. I mean, she's one of them for sure.
Okay.
This is in Driffield, which is like near Yorkshire in England. And this is in 1662, so only a couple years back.
Yeah.
This is all about Isabell Binnington. She moves there in 1662 with her husband William. And at the time, it was a very small town. It was a very poor town. And we don't know much about their lives except the fact that Isabel might have been a maid servant. But that's literally the only other information we have. So, okay.
It is sad. I feel like sometimes I go through like the newspapers.com or like the old ancestry records. And if somebody was like a cleaner or like a maid, quote unquote, or a servant, that would be like the only record of them. I'm like, great, cool. So there's just nothing. They just don't matter any other
and
way.
Also, like, sometimes like I even look at my own great grandparents on the census, and all I know is their occupation, and it's such like a vague occupation where I'm like, how was that enough for the government, let alone me?
Yeah, they're like, oh, that William, got it.
One of them just says candy store, and I'm like, did my grandpa...
Oh, that's actually pretty specific.
I know, but I'm like, were you a candy maker, or did you just
sell
sell
a candy store?
Were you
Did you have a trench coat filled with Tootsie Pops?
Were you actually 3 lollipops stacked on top of each other in a trench coat? I would like to know more about that. Or others just say like factory, and I'm like, that can't be all I get to know.
That can't be right.
Or even the wives where it's like homemaker. I'm like, oh, what a shame. I'm sure there was something. There has to be more relevant. To you.
No,
it's just all very two-dimensional.
One
facet. But anyway, so we know she's a maidservant. Great, and we don't even know what he was up to. So 3 months after moving in, Isabella notices that there's a spot on the floor that is slightly sunken in. Immediately, I'm gonna go with, why did you only notice 3 months into this? But okay.
Yeah.
But she moves in, she notices there's a spot on the floor that's like kind of lower, and like a hole had been dug out at some point, or there was no foundation under it. And she thought maybe, I love where her brain goes. This is very Christine. She thinks maybe the former residents buried money or valuable items down there, and now it's my job to dig them up and find them.
Well, if you had asked me, Christine, what would your first thought be? I would be like, oh, well, someone put treasure down there and I'm going to go dig it up. So yeah, that is that not, but like in all seriousness, is that not where your mind would go?
No.
What would your mind say? Like, I just am wondering what a normal
I would say,
person
there
would
was an issue in construction and now we have to deal with it and get an inspector.
I guess that's smart. Never mind. I was like, what other more logical reason could there possibly be, Em?
I mean, it would have been like my second or third thought, and I would have been like, I hope that's the case, instead of me having to pay like so much money.
Yeah.
So maybe we do know more about Isabell Binnington. It's that she ended up reincarnating into Christine Schiefer and had the same thoughts are still there.
Giving me her shitty colon issues.
That, she never mentioned that one historically, so that goes unreported, unfortunately.
Bummer.
But it'll be very reported for you when you go. That's nice.
Oh, it'll be all I talk about.
It'll be all through the Ouija board? What are you talking about? I'm talking about when you're not.
I don't know.
Anymore.
It'll be on my census records when they're like, put candy store or factory. I'll be like, broken
stapled butt. Yeah.
Staples in butt.
See, that's another thing where I'd be like,
Christine.
I have to know more.
See, I love to keep some intrigue alive,
So she goes looking through. She starts digging into the middle of her kitchen. She digs with a knife at first. Love her innovative thoughts here.
Butter knife.
Yeah, it is you. You fucking do everything with a knife too.
I do dig with a knife, yeah.
Okay. Well, she digs with a knife, and then she finds a bunch of staples that were once in someone's butt. I'm just kidding.
Stop it.
She digs a knife. She's digging with a knife because that's not ergonomically friendly to digging. She drops it by accident, and it's so far down. Which, by the way, how big is this fucking hole? It drops so far down she can't grab the knife anymore. So it's at least like arm deep.
Oh, I wonder if it went through like a floorboard. Like it's like a divot, or is it in the floor? Is this hole like in dirt, or is it in a floor?
I'm getting I honestly don't know, but I was getting the vibe of dirt.
Okay.
And like the kitchen was on the first floor, and there was just a big ass hole that got covered up with floorboards and nothing else.
So she's digging, and then she drops it into the hole and can't reach it.
And then she can't get it. So then she takes I don't know why she's got this, but it's giving chaos energy. She has a broken piece of plate, and
she took. Well, if it were me, I would take a plate and go, I have enough plates, and smash it and be like, now I've got a lot of shovels. Now,
or she
one
broke
man's
it originally.
Plate is a woman's 16 shovels. Yep.
You know what? I do think that's the most original statement there's ever been made.
Thank you.
I think she just had in a different way, your trash pile. I bet she had a bunch of broken plates left over
for sure.
From something
she
else.
Was like, I'll do something with these one day. And then she's like, take that, Mom. I am using that broken plate I saved.
Yeah, she to her husband. It's like that trash pile was worth keeping. I ended up using something in there.
I told you.
So she ends up grabbing a broken piece of plate to keep digging after she's dropped the knife. And when eventually she hits something, and she gets to burnt, broken wooden stakes.
Oh boy.
And human bones.
Oh my God.
It's either a scalp, like a head, the top of a head. There might be some teeth in there. Those are the only two that we've like documented, but maybe there's an arm, maybe there's a butt, maybe there's staples in it.
If there's not a butt, I'm worried about what happened to the butt.
Yeah, that's true. I went to this museum recently, and it had 2 skeletons in it, and the guy tried to be so slick with it. And he was like, which one do you think is the male body and which one do you think is the female body? And the female body was taller, so he thought he was really going to get me. And I went, and I guessed them right anyway. Not because I have any book smarts, but because I got a lot of street smarts. And I was like, this fucking guy thinks he's going to trick me. So I'm going to pick whichever one he thinks.
Oh, that's hilarious. So he foiled his own game by being a little too conceited.
Yeah, I was like, you are acting like a man who wants to prove me wrong. So now I'm just going to do the opposite of what you think I'm going to say.
Was he totally bummed when you got it right?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, that's right. And I went, well, yeah, don't be an asshole. It's that easy. Don't be
an asshole. And also, I feel like that's a stupid thing I feel like
I should have looked at him and been like, am I a boy or a girl with my skin?
Yeah,
you
great
tell me.
Question.
Oh, you're wrong either way.
You're wrong. Haha.
Secret
that would have been
third
a fun
answer.
Little trick question.
That would have been real fun. He would have hated it. Anyway, and I was the only person on the tour. It was just him and me, so he really hated it. So she finds broken wooden stakes and human bones. She thought that maybe the land, this is where like her logic is finally kicking in. She's like, oh, this place was once a burial site, obviously. I don't want to disturb any bones, even though I've just dug through them. I don't want to disturb
my
anything.
Fingers.
Yeah. And like a dirty plate and a knife,
Yeah.
You just stir them around.
Yeah, but I guess now let's be respectful. That's fair. That's nice of her.
I mean, I guess the only thought is that this place must have once been a graveyard, not a body has been buried here after this was a home.
It's funny that she thought, oh, someone must have buried a treasure in that hole. And then she finds a dead body and she's like, well, there's no way a person could have put this here. It must just be a graveyard. I'm like, wow, you really flip-flopped on that. So at this point, my brain is, this is where I divert from Isabella, and I'm like, oh my God, a serial killer has been in this room.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if true crime podcasts were popular in the 1600s.
Oh.
Where would her mind have gone? This is where I like to think in butterfly effect terms, where I'm like, I don't know how beneficial true crime podcasting is these days. I like to think it's brought some awareness to some people. I like to think that.
Yeah.
But in the 1600s, or like whenever like Jack the Ripper was going on, if all the like podcast girlies were covering it, I feel like we might have figured out who he was, you know?
Like, I feel like we would have gotten to the bottom of it for sure.
If we were writing in, especially if they were actual girlies, I feel like we're obviously better than the police in a lot of ways when it comes to our investigating skills.
Yeah, and I feel just some unhinged pathways we take that may or may not be legal, but probably get some answers.
We would, at the very least, if there was one woman at the time who was like, write in all your tips to me, like Gossip Girl about Jack the Ripper, we'll find him. We just need to unite.
Band together.
I don't know. Maybe that's an ignorant thing to say. I hope not. But I like to think in the world of Gossip Girl where everything is perfect. So
I mean, I know they had all those. I know that like it was very sensationalized, and so I know they had all those like little penny dreadfuls where they would like write about Jack the Ripper, and they did sort of try, but you're right. They didn't have like the internet.
They didn't have the ability to find others via internet.
Yeah, it's harder to really band together through like a zine.
Imagine when, first of all, time travel is already real, because if it's real at any time, it's real.
That's right? Exactly what I always say.
So when we get to the point where time travel also is within our reach, right, if ever, imagine if like the Swifties decided we're going to find Jack the Ripper. We're going to go kick his ass.
Right. Like the way that what happened, remember when the BTS fan base like took over Twitter for that one that like MAGA hashtag that, and then like BTS like took over just because, and everyone was like, whoa, that was scary and also like really impressive, but now we're a little bit afraid.
Yeah.
It could happen.
I'm just saying, it's like, it would at least, there would be a department in the time travel crime section where it's like, we got to get all these internet sleuths together.
It's time.
And then go back in time all together and like do a sting operation. Get this guy.
It's happening. Anyway,
Isabel, are you listening?
Or has it already happened?
It has already happened, just not for us.
Wow.
Okay. Isabel finds bones. She thinks obviously there's a logical reason to this and nothing far-fetched. But then, not too long after this, now that she's disturbed these bones, on August 23rd, 1662, at around 8:30 at night, Isabel is sitting at the hearth, which I almost did a whole deep dive on hearths.
Hearth.
See? I could have used that deep dive. She's sitting there, she's staying warm and cozy by the fire, and she sees a young blonde man, barefoot. What in the world? Dressed in green, which I think is an interesting color. In my mind, green wasn't even a fabric choice yet, which I know that's so stupid. And he's not wearing a hat.
I think they could like use plants to make things green, but I don't know.
I've literally seen I've seen so many people even older than 1662 wearing green, but it takes an extra bump in my brain to realize that it's possible.
You've seen people older than 1662 wearing green? What are you talking about?
Like people from earlier than 1662.
Where did you see them?
I've seen pictures of people wearing like Victorian dresses and they're green.
Victorian is like 1900.
Oh, right. 1660. What have I seen earlier?
I'm just like fascinated by like the fact that you just told us that you time traveled by accident. Or you accidentally
I almost blew my
to
cover.
Us that
Hang on.
Almost. You literally just outed yourself so actively. What are you doing?
I feel like I've seen it like, I don't know, in paintings
like in a
and
tapestry?
shit. Like I feel like I've seen
archaic outfits and they happened to be green. And I'm like, well, if they're painting them, then
I mean, what about Spring Heel Jack? They
must have seen it before.
I feel like Spring Heel Jack wore green, or maybe I'm making that up.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay, never mind. Wait, I'm trying to help you out here, man.
I know. It's I feel like have I not? Whatever. It doesn't matter. He's wearing green, and he's barefoot.
Okay, right.
And he's blonde, and he's young, and he's not wearing a hat. So this is where I almost deep dove into the hat etiquette of the 17th century.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's something about the fact that he's not wearing a hat that must have been relevant.
It was literally documented by one of the people I talk about later. They mention it in their like testimony, and it's like the most shocking piece of
that he's not
the story
wearing a hat
to him. So he's not wearing a hat. Like something must be wrong.
Yes. I mean, he's also not wearing shoes. That's odd even today for a stranger.
Interesting that. Well, this was a really poor area, so I'm wondering like were shoes optional but hats weren't.
If you gotta buy one, you gotta buy the hat.
Which like can't even understand that to this day.
That's fucked up.
But apparently having a hat is everything. I do remember in 1885, when Marty McFly, speaking of time travel, goes back and sees his family. They are shocked.
1885?
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was 1985.
That was Back to the Future 1, Christine.
Oh,
keep it up.
Okay.
In 1885, when he goes to the beginning of his town being built and he runs into like the first generation of his family coming to town, they are fucking floored that he's not wearing a hat. They're like, you have to have a hat. Like they won't even have a conversation with him until he has a fucking hat on.
Okay, so that explains it then. This is so
inappropriate. And they were like poor Irish potato farmers. Like they had a hat. Everyone has hats.
Everyone had a hat.
I wonder if I would time travel right now wearing this Boston Red Sox baseball cap, if they'd be like, that's not a hat. Put something else on.
I feel like you'd be fine as long as you went with me, who was not wearing a hat. And then you'd be in the clear and I'd be in trouble.
Okay. Anyway, I thought about doing the etiquette. It was, believe it or not, incredibly dry text. So I went without.
I'm sure he's standing there. One of those brochures one day, like in an antique store where it's like hat etiquette and it has like diagrams of like how to wear a hat. I love shit.
I love those. There's like the book where it's like how Victorian children would play. And the very first page is Hoop and Stick. I already know because I own that book. I bought it when I was like in Colonial Williamsburg.
You wrote it when you went back in time. I know.
So he's not wearing a hat. He's barefoot. He's in green. He is just standing there. And when I say Isabel's sitting at the fireplace and she sees him, like, he appears in her house.
Right.
Okay.
No shoes, no hat.
No shoes, no hat. Isabell, thought that he must be a vagabond. Like, I love that she's got a reason for everything. She's no panic, only calm. And she's like, oh, a grown-ass man is in my house. Must just be like a vagabond looking for a warm place to sleep. He saw my fireplace. He got really jealous. But before she can address him, he starts moving towards her in complete silence.
Ugh.
So now she's no longer Christine and she's now M. Schultz. She just starts shouting like Jesus and Bible verses immediately.
Okay,
as soon as he moves, she's like, hang on a tick. That's not fucking right.
It's like, God.
She starts commanding him to speak in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Like, you better fucking say something. And he does. He tells her that he is a spirit condemned to remain in this house for 21 years.
Oh my.
So far, he had been there for 14 years of the 21.
Oh, okay.
Which I like that he's almost telling her, like, there is a deadline to this. Like, in 7 years, I won't be in your way anymore.
It's like 2/3 of the way through.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, that's what I would have said to him. I'd be like, you're over halfway there. Don't come near me now. This is
just stay stay under the floor again. Go back.
Keep your head low, you know, like as low as it was below the floorboards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he says this. He's like, oh, I'm a ghost and I'm dead and I've been here for 14 years. I got another 7 to go. Then he just wanders off into the parlor and she lets it happen. I feel like back to me with my family census. I'm like, hang on, we got more to talk about all of a sudden. What do you mean you're just going to walk away? But he just leaves.
He's a tease.
And this is where I wonder what happened in the middle, because so he leaves after he says that, which does feel a little neggy of like,
yes,
I want you to follow me and ask questions. It feels attention seeky. Then he leaves, and then he comes back into the room 15 minutes later. What was he doing for those 15 minutes? Was he like snooping through her shit or something? I don't know.
Was he like debating whether or not to go back in the room?
It's like, I'm sitting here waiting for her to come follow me so we can talk about this.
He's like me, and then he gets too impatient. He's like, ugh, fine, I'll do it.
So he comes back in to talk to her, and he makes it clear that he is harmless, he is kind, he's nice, and he promises to never do anything to her. And also vague, he just says, you will never want for anything.
Ugh.
Like, because you're here, or like, are you predicting the future, or
right? Ew, yeah. My gut instinct was that he's saying, I'm so nice and I'm so caring, and I'll make sure you never want for anything. Like, I'll take care of you, which is so icky. Like, nobody asked for that.
It's like giving Casper romance. It's like, okay, but I didn't ask for this, and also, can you leave my house?
And also, you're dead.
So he's like, yeah, I'm never gonna hurt you.
Fucking body.
I'm never gonna hurt you. You're chill. I don't mean to like cause any harm. I don't mean to scare you. I just wanted to let you know I'm here. I got 7 years to go, depending on how long you last. And by the way, you'll never want for anything. Then he just glides away. Again, probably waiting for her to say something. But he goes away for the rest of the night. The next night he reappears, and she commands him to give her more information, which, good for you.
Okay.
And he says, oh, remember yesterday when you saw me around 8:30? That was on the anniversary of my death at 8:30 when I died. 14 years ago exactly, between 8 and 9 p.m., which is exactly when she saw him. Okay. And then I just saved this little quote because it gives me shivers in a weird way. He said, he died between 8 and 9, 14 years before, and quote, I received my grave betwixt 12 and 1. And then he vanished.
Ooh, betwixt 12 and 1.
Love the use of betwixt.
Oh, ooh.
Someone should have a little kitty cat, a little black kitty cat named Betwixt. I think that'd be lovely.
I love that. I wonder if that is anyone's cat's name. Tag us.
I wonder if Betwixt and Twix candy bars have anything in common.
I thought that as well.
Well, so I guess he's saying I died around 8 and 9. I was buried by 12 and 1. By 12 to 1. He appears again later at another time, and she says, you have to tell me your name. At the very least, if I'm going to fucking live with you, you have to tell me who you are. And he says, my name is Robert Elliott. And when she says, who killed you? Since you're saying you just died and immediately had a grave, who killed you? He said, quote, I was knocked in the head in my bed by 3 women, Mary Burton, Alice Colson, the Elder, and Anne Harrison. I like how Alice Colson somewhere is like rolling over in her grave. Like, why am I still being called old?
She's like, the other 2 ladies were born same year, but I'm the one who gets called out.
So Mary Burton, Alice Colson, Anne Harrison. And Mary Burton seems to be the one he has like the biggest issue with. I think the other 2 might have just been like friends of Mary Burton's and helped. He was visiting from London. He tells the story to Isabel. He was visiting from London, and he got in a fight with a local woman named Mary Burton, who allegedly refused to pay him back when he gave her a loan.
Okay.
Another source that I saw said something about he was either boarding under her or she was boarding with him, and there was like a rent issue. But I don't really know the details to it. But it sounds like something, which would also explain how she had access to him sleeping if they were staying in the same building.
Right, and also buried him under her own floorboards,
which were also his floorboards. Yeah. So one of the versions, or from what he has said, according to Robert Elliott the Ghost, Mary and 2 of her friends murdered and buried him in the floor to cover it up, and nobody ever found out. And after killing him, Mary also stole money from his pockets and pieces of jewelry that were both his mother's and his grandmother's. And she swiped business paperwork, which gave her access to a bunch of his other belongings from his previous home, which she then sold for more money.
Oh, God. She's like really conniving, this Mary.
Yeah. not someone you want to mess with.
No.
So because Isabell disturbed his bones, that was the first time he had, I guess his spirit was awoken in some way. And because she was responsible for disturbing his bones, she was the only one who could see or hear him. How convenient. Over the visits, because he didn't stop not showing up. He didn't stop showing up. Which I would have been like, dude, I get it. 14 years, that's super great. But like, you got 7 more and you didn't bother anyone for those other 14. So like, why do you gotta
why
bother
is
me?
she the poor sap who gets stuck with like this talker, this yapper? She can't.
Yeah. It's like, if anything,
seats.
because I disturbed your bones and now you're kind of alive here, why don't we just be roommates? But like, we don't have to talk. Like,
yeah, like let's
you get
just
this
give
side
each
of the
other some
house.
space.
Well, anyway, he keeps showing up and he appears in different ways to her sometimes. So like one time he showed up as a man, one time he showed up as a 12-year-old boy. A lot of times he showed up in white instead of the green suit he was wearing.
Oh.
Not once do we get any information on the loss of his shoes or hat. And
no.
and by the 5th time he visits, he says he just shows up and like doesn't even have anything to say to her. So it really is starting to feel like roommates that like they just don't even talk to each other. She just sees him and goes,
they just nod.
Yeah.
As they like pass each other for the microwave.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another time he asked her to set fire to the place where she found the bones, aka her own fucking house. No
the
thanks.
Floor. Super.
the floor made of nothing but wood. The kindling.
Yeah, great.
Also, by the way, oh, hang on, maybe we'll get to it. Set fire to the place where she found the bones. And I don't think she did this part because I never saw it in the story later, but it was a request of his. And he said, if it were to happen, quote, the stake would now be as warm at the root in my heart as my heart was when the stake was stricken through it.
Oh.
I feel like he's talking in rhymes. I don't care for that. Also, like, I thought he was hit in the head. What happened? Why is he getting stabbed in the heart now?
Yeah. Maybe he was hit in the head and then they were like, let's just do it for good measure.
I feel like that eldest one really had like, oh, while he's dead, let's do these other things I've wondered about a body, and just like really just went for it.
She's like, well, I brought these steaks, and they're like, yeah, we told you not to bring those steaks. And she's like, well, we have to use them now. I brought them.
It's like, girl, you're overdoing it. Like, we
Girl.
could get away with it if he looks like he fell by himself. If we stab him through the
Nobody
heart.
asked you to bring a steak.
It's like, Alice, girl, like you're
Alice,
a lot. Like, we knew
you're
you would be
so
down for
old.
murder,
I mean,
but. So, let's see. So at some point in his visits, he tells Isabell that that it was up to her to bring his killers to justice on behalf of him, which, keep in mind, he only died 14 years ago, so they might still be alive.
Oh yeah. And also, like, we've learned that Mary's not someone you want to fuck with.
Yeah, which, by the way, if I were Isabell, I'd be like, until Mary's dead, I'm not touching this, but thank you so much.
Forget it.
I just burped into the
No.
microphone.
Oh, I missed it.
Did you hear that?
No, I sure didn't.
It absolutely happened. Sorry to everybody else. So yeah, if I had to be told, oh, you're gonna go find justice on my killers now, I'd be like, well, hang on a second, I'm not involved in this. I know I disturbed your bones. I'm so sorry about that.
I'm so sorry. I cannot express how sorry.
So I know that you have it in your head now that I have to do something about this, but like I didn't request that. Also, where the hell is her husband? Like, why isn't she talking about this stuff?
Yeah,
with him?
why is it not his fucking problem?
So anyway, the husband never gets mentioned, which is bananas to me. The guy, Robert, right? He decides, well, you are responsible. I don't make the rules. And somehow convinces her, and she's now like dead set to help him, which like that couldn't have gone any better for him because he would have gotten a different answer out of me.
He must be a fucking charmer, that barefoot bastard. He's like, I know. I'll just tell her to go avenge my death.
I'm fancy enough for a green suit, but a hat? Forget it.
A hat? Come on.
He started giving her details about his life to help prove his existence, and eager to help, Isabell contacts the local magistrate's office and reports the murder, and then tells them everything, including that there's a ghost manifesting in front of her.
Oh.
However, can you believe it? The officials were skeptical. If I worked in that department, I'd be like, I'm taking my lunch break right now and going over to your house to see this guy.
I was going to say, you and I would be like, finally, I like my job for a minute.
Yeah. So Isabell tells them that tells the ghost that night, says, hey, Robert, I need more information because people still aren't believing what's going on. And keep in mind, it was a difficult time for ghost stories because this was during the Reformation. And so a lot of people were moving away from Catholicism and thus like purgatory and trapped souls. And so like his story kind of went against what people were moving from.
Right.
Others still believed in it, though. It was like it was a weird gray space. So some people were into it, some people weren't. And Isabell knew someone would eventually listen if she had all the information. So she got more information from Robert, spread it through town, and she even demanded at churches of all types for the ghosts to be included in their prayers, like start praying for Robert. Homegirl had nothing to do. I mean, remember, like on the census, it would have just said housewife, which like
I thought
now I'm like, what the hell was my
she
grandma up to? She could have been up to something like this.
Oh my God. Imagine the things she discovered in that candy store, the ghostly apparitions that came through the floor. But what about, okay, quick question. Didn't her census say, did it say housewife or did it say like maid
We
or
think
something?
it was maidservant from one source.
Because like they're fucking busy. Like that's like hard labor basically. So if she's around scrubbing floors and stuff, how does she have time to go on like a jaunt? Maybe it was like her like how we did the podcast because we needed like an outlet, like a hobby after work. Maybe this is like her passion project, you know?
It's got to be. She sounds
like,
way too
her
passionate
side
about it.
hustle.
Yeah. Side hustle. She is taking it a little seriously for a side hustle, though. I mean, she's literally contacting authorities and churches and raising issues all over the public space, the community.
Yeah, because she's a boss babe.
You know what? Maybe that's the way I need to look at it. Even still, people refuse to pay attention to her until Robert himself gave Isabell more information that could seriously stick. And he said, you know what? Not only do I have information about myself, I have information about others. And let's just say I know of a secret plot to kill the king.
Oh, that's not an escalation at all.
He really went for the throat there. He said, I know 2 men working for the king who work under him in the castle, and they are going to kill him. And he even gave Isabell their full names and positions.
He like pulled his trump card so fast, I feel like.
He was like, if no one's going to listen to me, they'll listen to this. And then maybe they'll pay attention to me.
Wow.
And then I'll get help.
So, wow. So now she's in like, I would argue, a pretty dangerous fucking position. They're like, she has like names of people in the court that she's going to accuse.
All of a sudden, she's absolutely like an accomplice or something.
Yeah, it feels like she's gonna be in some hot water for this, but
or what's the law when it's like conspiracy or something where it's like you're not totally involved but you know of something.
Oh yeah.
A
conspirator? I don't know.
Something.
No. It's like where you. I forget. I know the word.
She's now officially like. She's now officially responsible in some way, at least. Which, by the way, let's talk again. This man is a ghost, and in 1660s, we don't know how accurate of a story this is. It could be, she's going through something, and she has created a side character, and if that's the case, she just made up an assassination plot, like
that. See, that's pretty alarming. Yeah.
Like seeing people hearing things that nobody else can, and now the king will be killed. That's fucking crazy too.
Yeah.
So this was in, like I said, 1662. This was not a time when Isabell, by the way, could have gotten access to the names of people and their positions who worked under the king.
Oh, okay. I was gonna ask if that was just like public knowledge.
I don't think it was.
Oh, weird. Okay.
But she did know it would be a father, or the ghost, Robert, knew it would be a father-son duo with the last name Jenkins. And fun fact, in like 2024 research, there was at the time a Robert and Philip Jenkins that worked in the royal household at the time. So it's weird that she knew that when like she wouldn't have had access to that information, unless maybe she knew a guy who knew a guy,
Yeah, like she'd heard about the name Jenkins and was like, oh,
Or
I'll
like,
just throw that
I've got a
name in.
friend and his dad, they both work at the castle. We're not supposed to know about that. And like, she just overheard it at the
Right.
bar,
Right.
Like, I like to think, living in Hollywood, sometimes I like to play the game of like, how many degrees away am I from an Avenger? And shockingly, I'm only like 1 degree away from a few of them, which is so cool.
Shocking. It's not that shocking.
To me. It's shocking to me.
But you've like actively manifested that, and you live in Burbank, California.
That's true. One of them is always like within 15 minutes of me.
But don't sell yourself short. Like, I would have thought you're negative degrees by this point away.
Well, no, I've yet to hang out one-on-one with an Avenger, but I like to think in 1662, this is what other people were doing of like, how many degrees am I away from someone who works for the royal family?
The jester.
Yeah. Like how many, just the jester. Only him.
What
That's
about
all we need.
What if you made out with the jester in high school and you're like, oh, and now he's a jester, so I guess that makes me 1 degree away from the king.
I love that idea because it's like, what does that make you if your connection to the castle is you made out with the town idiot or whatever?
Why is it like me, the one who's making my own story, who's like, I made out with the jester in high school? Like, I couldn't even just say like I made out with like the prince,
the chef.
Yeah. Why the jester? I don't know.
The king himself. Yeah.
That's what I guess that speaks to my own self-worth. And I stand by it because I feel like the jester is, always the one who got to make fun of the king.
Kate Middleton, when it was like back in the early 2000s and she was dating Prince William.
Yeah.
That her friends were thinking, like, even if they don't get together, she gets to say that she made out with the future king. Like,
right?
How cool.
It's still a cool story.
Yeah.
Also,
is
the word we were looking for an accessory?
Accessory.
Like where you know about it. But I just didn't want people to start tweeting and be like, guys, you never figured that out. Because I think that's what we were trying to say. An accessory where you're aware of it, but you didn't do anything.
Yeah, I think that's right. So she says there's this father-son duo with the last name Jenkins. They're going to kill the king. They work for the royal family. And there was, in fact, 2 people there at the time who worked, So it's interesting that she did know that.
It is.
But we don't know how. It is possible that the ghost and or Isabell made this up to get authorities' attention because they weren't getting the attention yet, even though they were trying. So maybe they created this murder for them to investigate just to like kind of ruffle some feathers
radar.
and get them talking. But maybe it was real. We don't know. Officials couldn't ignore the fact that a potential assassination attempt on the king was being thrown around. So through that, Isabell continued to advocate for the ghost, being like, and when you're done with that, don't forget about this.
About my ghost friend?
About my ghost friend who wants justice for the murderers. I still feel like the ghost story is more interesting.
I do too. And also, I do too. No offense to the king. But also, like, what did they expect if this is just a plot or a ploy to get attention? They're not going to care about Robert's murder anymore if they're just focused on the king's murder. Like, they're going to be like, who cares about this dead guy? He's already dead. Like, I feel like she kind of did the angle wrong. Like, if she's like, oh, the king's going to get murdered, like, they're not going to get any more fucking attention.
I 1000% agree. Of like, her strategy was not right.
She shot too far, Now that they're going to be looking over there.
Yeah, you got to pick something that's kind of gradually nearby, so that way they have a mutual interest.
Keep the interest peaked.
It was soon clear that Isabell was not going to give up until someone listened to her, and locals finally heard her out in an official forum. I think they were like, let's just shut this fucking woman up. I'm so tired of it. Now we've got a whole assassination plan that we want to hear about.
Thank you.
Honestly, maybe that was her tactic of like, let me just start pestering like
stop
the high authorities until everyone's annoyed and they just want to shut me up.
Good for her.
So now this is a month later. This is September 1662. And Isabell, under oath before 2 justices, one who is also a knight, She told the whole story again and included the ghost name, Robert Elliott, the city he was from, his birthday, his parents' names, his sisters' names, where his sisters live today. All the information that Robert had given her.
Couldn't she go find his sisters, or were they really far away?
So they were, his sisters' names were Kate and Jane, and those sisters were still alive, which is weird though. Like, if she was just like mentally ill and coming up with this stuff, I mean,
actual,
it matched. She could have also been mentally ill and just picking like random people she'd heard about in town, you know. So
right, true. But then they would have had to have a brother who died.
Right, yeah. Again, maybe she's just going to a really popular gossip bar, and they're like, "I know a guy. His name's Robert. He's dead."
Maybe she's a maid servant, and she's scrubbing floors, and everyone's ignoring her, but she's just getting all the hot goss from her boss. You know,
this is just like. Yes, that's got to. I if that's not it, I want that to be it so bad.
I've seen Downton Abbey.
This is just a dark tale of like when you don't pay attention to the little people who are listening.
Right.
They've got ears. The intel. Yep.
They've got ears everywhere.
So the sisters were alive, and Isabel could even tell the justices where they lived and what church they go to these days. And she was able to also say where Robert's parents were born, what his dad did for a living, where his dad currently was. Jeez. And she was questioned on at least 8 separate occasions, and she continued to demand an investigation for Robert. I wonder if she even gave a shit about Robert, or if she was just like, please, this is the only way I can get this ghost out of my house. Please exorcise this house for me.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that there was a specific sentence you said earlier, which was eager to help.
Yes.
And I was like, was she eager to help, or was she just eager to get this fucking guy away?
Yeah, I think that's what, I mean, unless she really had nothing else going on and she needed a hobby, it sounds to me like she's just willing to do whatever it takes. She just got this house.
Right. Ugh. Like, God, get him out of here. And I mean, it sounds like the start of a dramedy where like, oh, guess I'm now suddenly involved in this crime, and laughs ensue. Hilarity ensues.
Hysterics. Hilarity ensues.
Yep.
The media finally begins to pick up the story. One pamphlet reads from the time, because you know I fucking love reading an old pamphlet and telling you how many words were in one run-on sentence of a header.
I can't wait.
You want to guess how many words were in the headline?
The headline? 8.
71.
What? Sorry, that was so loud.
This
71.
This is the pamphlet reads, a strange and wonderful discovery of a horrid and cruel murder committed 14 years since upon the person of Robert Elliott of London at Great Driffield in the East Riding of the County of York, discovered in September, last by the frequent apparitions of a spirit in several shapes and habits unto Isabell Binnington, the wife of William Binnington, the now inhabitants in the house where this most execrable murder was committed.
Execrable.
Execrable. Execrable.
Execrable?
I don't fucking know. This murder was committed. So.
Execrable.
Execrable. I've never heard that word in my life.
Me neither.
Anyway, it's the fact. I feel like when we were younger and they were trying to teach us like how to write an essay, I don't know about you, but I was taught to like do 5 paragraphs or 5 sentences if you're doing a short answer of the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So maybe 6. Who, what, when, where, why, how. Yeah, the 5 W's and how. I feel like they just answered all that in the headline, and now I don't need to read the fucking story. Like, what else are you going to tell me?
It's like nowadays when you say like, oh, I just looked at the headline, it means you like don't know anything about it. But now with this, it's like, oh, I looked at the headline. Oh, well, tell me everything.
No wonder everyone was able to read the entire paper every day. They just like it was just a bunch of sentences.
It's like 3 stories.
Yeah.
3 headlines.
Nowadays the headline is to hook you for the rest of it. But
yeah, this one I don't know what they were doing, just word vomiting.
The printed stories began to get even more detailed. I can't imagine anything more detailed when that headline is 71 words long, but okay. So the printed stories get even more detailed, whether they were real stories from Isabel herself, whether they were stories confabulated by the ghost, or maybe they were just journalists who were embellishing for the readers. We don't know, but the stories got more specific.
I
One
mean,
story's what?
Just no offense, but like, we don't know if they were embellishing. I mean, read that fucking headline. Like the words, inexecrable, whatever the fuck. Like, Jesus Christ, they probably wrote. Imagine the fucking article about, like, they would have used like 95 words to describe like the green suit he was wearing, and it would have all just been made up so that they could write more words.
Interesting, they never mentioned his hat, so maybe it wasn't that grabby. You know?
Interesting. Maybe that was the meat of the story, and they're like, you won't know the real hot gossip until you start reading the article.
This fucking guy, no
if you
hat.
Got past the headline,
no hat. He came back to Earth, forgot his hat.
Came back to Earth.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a combination of embellished journalists plus the ramblings of either a mentally unstable and or incredibly attention needy woman.
Yeah.
Who happens to know a lot of people in town, but whatever.
And also like has bad things to say about most of them. So
yeah. So one story actually went, this is like, is it embellished or was it told by the ghost? One story, for example, is that Mary Burton, Robert's killer, just before killing him, told Robert, I could find in my heart to drink thy blood as freely as this cup of ale.
Jesus.
So homegirl literally said, I want to fucking drink your blood because I care that little about you.
Allegedly.
Despite Isabel's determination, ultimately the investigation came up empty. I'm sorry, but were there not literal bones in her house? I feel like that should have at least brought an investigator in, but whatever. Public arguments against the story stated that they couldn't find records of all three women involved in the killing. They were only able to find records of one of the murderers. I think it was Mary. And she was now dead, so they couldn't even be questioned. And so you couldn't rightfully, announce or state that this was a real
and so
crime.
Basically she did wait for Mary to be dead before this kind of went down. Yeah.
Which, if homeboy stuck in the house, if this ghost knows about a random assassination plot, which we never even covered that, how does he know that? Yeah. Who is he talking to?
Earlier when you said now we know that there was a Jenkins, I'm like, wait, why are you saying it like we're never going to discuss this again? And then it never came up.
If he knows that there's an assassination plot on the other side of, I don't know where Yorkshire is, somewhere in England, he knows a whole other storyline going on. He couldn't tell you if Mary was alive or not. Why did we go on this goose chase?
I mean, I wish I knew, but I can't for the life of me understand what's happening.
So they were only able, basically the courts were like, we can't go any further. They were only able to find records of Mary, but they don't know if that was actually, they were never able to question her. On top of that, one of the justices publicly criticized the testimony, which didn't help, but people wonder if that's because the justice was, which side of the Reformation was he on? Maybe he didn't want to believe in trapped souls. We don't know if that was part of the reasoning, or that the story was fucking ridiculous. I don't know. There was no official investigation later into Robert's death or a trial. The investigation that did happen was more of like a credibility trial about Isabel before they went any further. And if there were any more records about about Robert or Isabel's attempts to get him justice, they're now lost to time. Wow. But we can end on a high note that according to Robert, he was only going to be around for 7 more years. So by 1670, he has passed and he is no longer with us.
Wow.
And that is The Haunting of Isabell Binnington.
That's so wild.
Thank you.
The fact that he was like, oh, well, I've got 7 years left. I guess now's the time to go on this like crusade to avenge my death. And it's like, you're 2/3 of the way there. Just go back, take another nap and you'll be in heaven or whatever.
Well, it's like, that's what you say to like grandpa. Like, take one more nap and you'll be in heaven.
Every time you come over.
Every time I take a nap, especially at your house, or something intoxicating about your house. Every time I take a nap, I do think I don't know if I'm going to heaven, but I'm certainly not on earth. There is a purgatory I can't escape from all the way.
You're leaving your husk behind, heading somewhere in the ethos.
You know the dreams where it feels like G-force is holding you back in a roller coaster, like to like pull yourself back into reality? Those are the naps I have when I'm at your house, where
I've
just
never
feel
had
like
that feeling.
What?
Okay, so you texted me the other day, and you and I had both had really bad and weird dreams, and you were like, yeah, I was trying to pull, it was one of those where I was trying to pull myself back, and I was like, I've never had that.
That happens to me all the time.
But I like, so does
That's
that mean
insane.
you're like lucid dreaming? Like, you know, you're dreaming?
Does it mean that I'm dying and trying to come back to Earth? I have no idea what that means, but it feels like you've never had one of those dreams where you wake up and you're like, what year is it? Like,
oh, I mean, yeah, but not like, I don't know what happened right before I woke up. Like, I don't.
Oh, maybe I am lucid. I don't know.
Like,
I really.
So are you in a dream and you're like, I gotta get out of here?
No, I'm like, it's like if Allison's like, it's like I'm in such a deep sleep I can't wake up, but like I'm trying because
Oh, you're like trying to pull your consciousness out.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see. I guess maybe I've done that.
Like Allison's trying to wake me up and be like, hey, dinner's here or something, but I'm so deep in
you're like
my
fighting the abyss.
Yes, fighting the abyss is the exact way to put it.
Okay.
I often call whenever I'm asleep because I don't know where I'm going. I'm not here. I'm not present.
We've determined that.
I usually call like dream world specifically, but really the abyss of sleep. I just call it the beyond. And so a lot of times
I'm heading to the beyond. Yeah.
When I tell Allison I'm going to bed, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to the beyond for a little bit. Will I meet you there? Am I going to see you? Where are we going to sometimes we'll plan in advance, which I guess is our own like special way of like trying to like lucid dream.
I mean, yeah,
because
it sounds like it.
It's really meant to just be like a sweet little like inside joke of like, oh, I'm going to go get ice cream in the beyond. Am I going to see you at the ice cream parlor? And then all of a sudden you're
like, which pillar are we meeting at?
Yeah, it's like, is time a thing there, or else I'm gonna be waiting forever? Like, what?
I'm late. Are you late?
Anyway, so yeah, no, pulling myself back from the beyond. It feels like I don't know what else to say. It really.
I know what you
whatever
mean.
You just said.
I've done that. I feel like I thought you meant you were in a dream and you were like, shit, I got to get out of here, and you were like trying to like pinch yourself awake out of like an active
that's sleep
dream.
Paralysis. I have also had that.
That's like lucid dreaming. Or sleep paralysis, but yes. Wow. Okay. Fascinating.
Thank you.
All right, so today I have for you, I'm going to call this the Sharron Prior previously cold case.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So we're going to cover Sharron Prior today. This one.
All right. I don't know
sucks.
Who that is.
Well, it's just sad and bad.
Oh. Okay.
Yay. Sharron Kim Prior was born in February 1959 and grew up in the Point St. Charles neighborhood of Montreal in, do you know where?
Quebec.
Yay! Canada.
Okay.
Those who knew her described her as a bright young girl, you know, all the usual things that make it extra sad. She lit up a room. She had a zest for life. She lived with her mother, Yvonne, her two younger sisters who were twins, and their names were Maureen and Doreen.
Love that.
And I also love it because Doreen is spelled like Doreen and Maureen is spelled Moreen.
Oh, that's fun. It would have been extra horrible if it was Maureen spelled like Doreen and Doreen spelled like Maureen.
Doreen. Yeah, you're right. That would have been so much worse.
What a cruel joke.
That would have been worse. I gotta hand it to them. They picked the right option.
If you ever had twins, did you ever have like a twin set of names? Which I know there's like some people also obviously opt to like, hey, they're their own individual people, so maybe we give them individual names. But in a fun little like, we're writing up cartoons and the twins have to have names. What would
Phil
you
and Lil?
Yeah, that one's I think done.
That one's been taken. You know, not really. I feel like I always thought about it in like real world terms, but not in like twin match names. What were yours?
I always at the time, I will say it again, it was before they were popular and I got made fun of all the way through because everyone said they were ugly names and now everyone needs to shut their little mouths. I always wanted, I mean it. I'm so upset because I got bullied so hard for these names and now they're popular. And I know.
We've discussed this because I I remember when you first told me, you were like, this is probably weird. And I was like, I think those are great names. And then all of a sudden they like boomed in popularity.
Yes. And now I can't use them because then I just look like I'm like following the pack. But
and also because your kids are gonna kill you because every time you're gonna be like, but I actually got bullied for liking that name when I was in middle school.
I always wanted, if I had two people who would want more mask names at the time, I was always like, oh, if I had twins, I think they'd be twin boys. I would go with Oliver and Owen because I like the O.
Oh, we just talked
about
this.
Letter theme.
Those are both great names.
Thank you. I think so. And now I don't know, because I always am so flaky about whether or not I even want kids. Some days I'm like, oh, maybe in a few years, and then there's other times where I'm like, absolutely not. So
Me too.
Well,
heads up, that doesn't go away. No, I'm just kidding.
But I feel like baby names for me are like shifting a lot because I'm like, oh, if it's not that serious and like I'm not actually thinking about having kids, then like what's the most ridiculous name I could come up with that actually sounds dope? And I like recently fell into like space themed names for babies, and I was like, oh, that's kind of fun. Anyway, I've been going down a baby name trail
Xenon?
Recently. Not Xenon, although that could be one. I don't know why that's not on the lists, but it's like Nebula and Cosmo and Echo. And I was like, they're a little too far-fetched, but I appreciate the effort. I think Echo's kind of a dope name for like a non-binary person.
That's a great name. I've met a few young Cosmo. I've seen Cosmo.
See, I don't like the name Cosmo, but I love the sound of the word cosmos. So I don't know where I stand. As a name, all of a sudden, it doesn't feel
right. You could do Osmosis Jones.
Oh, we're still scientific, aren't we?
Yeah.
In that way. What's a name that you did not use for Leona that you will never use that like you can say and not risk using it later? Like, are there names where you're like, oh, well, that one's not going to get used anymore?
Well, I always really liked the name Elliot, but now
it's a good one.
Leona's
that's
cousin
also
is named
really
Elliot.
Popular right now.
Yeah. So
yeah,
we have family with that name now. So, but no, I don't know. Nothing. There are a couple that are still up for play. I don't know if that's a sentence, if that's a word, but if we have another. So I'm like, I don't know if there's any that are completely off the table yet.
I always loved the names Lucy and Kimberly, which is like I guess early 90s now, but like
it sounds like Babysitter's Club.
I know, it's like Kimmy, but also I think Kimmy was from the Pink Power Ranger, and I just always liked the name Lucy. I don't know why, that always got me. But nobody I've ever dated has been in agreement with me and has liked those names. So they're names that I'm pretty sure are never going to get used if I even have kids, but they're names that I've always had at the top of my list.
Well, if something really radical happens, I like the name. So
okay. Just Leona and Lucy would be precious.
Oh, wait, that's actually really cute. Leona, Lucy, and Lemon, the perfect little trio.
Shut the fuck up about that.
Wait, but I would love if you had a little Lucy, and then it would be Leona and Lucy. I think that's very cute.
I know. I think that'd be... And also, like, I feel like Lucy... I try to think of names now where I'm like, if my kid is gender nonconforming in some way or want to transition... I kind of want to still like be like sneaky and control and be like, ooh, but if I pick a name that like is already gender neutral, then like you don't have to change your name. They can still change their name, but like I like to feel like, oh, maybe I can play the game with you.
Well, I tried to do that with Leona because I was like, then if she feels like it's too feminine, you could go by Leo.
Yeah, exactly.
If you feel like you need a change.
Yeah, with Lucy, I feel like the best you can do is just switch it over to like a Lucas or.
Oh, I thought you were
Luke
about to tell me like that's why you like Lucy, and I was like, my friend, I would argue that's one of the most.
I would like the names.
Lucifer.
Oh, actually, he gets a bad rap. So
he does. I wonder why. It's so weird.
If Lucy decided, hey, I'm transitioning, my name is now Lucifer, I'd be like, that's fucking badass. That's so cool.
Imagine like Fox News, and when they get their fucking filthy paws on that story, they'd be like, an 8-year-old.
I mean, that's how I feel about kids named Damien. I'm like, ooh, that was
or Lilith,
call.
Which is like one of the most beautiful names, but like is for
like,
the
your
woman
parents
who
had to sit with that for a second.
Yeah, they I think they knew. They must have known.
I think they knew.
I don't know.
Anyway, wow. Okay, we really derailed. I'm sorry. Maureen and Doreen.
All right.
That's where we were.
Not Maureen and Doreen. These poor girls. I'm like, I'm not trying to laugh at the story, obviously. I just I found the names so like
Silly.
So like I don't know if small town, but like so 60s, like I don't know, quirky.
Well, four of my best friends growing up were identical quadruplets, and they all had names that had nothing to do with each other.
Oh.
And which, like, I appreciate in knowing them because they are their own individual people, but for the novelty, which is so gross, I don't think of them as a novelty. But for the like, how often do you get to meet quadruplets and you're like,
when Ringling Brothers Circus picks them up, what are we going to put on the plaque? We got to change their name to something.
If they're listening, I don't think of you like that at all. They know that. I feel like
that.
They know that. I promise they know that.
We all know that. I'm like, we're just teasing.
In an opportunity where there's four people, it's like their first thought is like maybe throw a fun theme on it. But I get why.
So,
now.
But when you think that way, do you mean like they should all start with the same letter, or is it more like they should rhyme, or is it more like they should all be like flowers? Like, how do you?
Oh, I see. I don't know.
Like, what's your twin?
I don't know. Because my first thought, I think, because we all saw like cartoon twins that like everything rhymed. My first thought is rhyming, which is maybe a little too
Maureen, Doreen.
I've always liked the idea
Florine.
of like doing like a color theme or like something kind of subtle where like it's not totally clumping them together.
Oh,
or something.
I know. You put you know those those paint chip sample thingies from like Sherwin-Williams. Oh, you fan it out and then you pick one and you
They'd
just
be different
go down
Pantones. Oh my god, that's so.
It would be like, it's not even Pantones. It's like it's like cranberry sauce red or whatever the fuck all the colors are.
Like if so, the Duggars, for example, that's 19 kids that were all born under a name theme, and some of them have decided to do name themes. Just J. Which like I'm cool with that. It's like that's different enough.
Yeah, it's fine, but it's not even like that interest. I'm like,
yeah, I'm also talking as someone without a single sibling, let alone an identical one. But
I just I'm annoyed that they made the name Ginger start with a J. I think that's so irritating. That's my only.
There were so many other names they could have gone with, and Ginger's number 6. Like it's not like they ran out of names.
They had a whole exactly. I always was annoyed by that.
But like one of them decided that they're going to do an alphabet theme. One of them decided, so it's like A, B, C, D, E, F. One of them decided they were going to do an M theme, the letter M. So like, I feel like I would like
Owen and
Oliver,
right?
Yeah, which I don't even know if I meant to do an O theme. I just liked both of those names separately, and I was like, oh, if I had twins, it'd be cool if I could name them both that, and then I get a name theme incidentally.
The double O's.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry. I just keep interrupting you.
Oh no, I'm not stopping it from happening, so it's all good. Okay. I would argue I'm probably complicit. Oh, by the way, I meant to add, I think that I did not mean the word accessory earlier.
This is a lot of back and forth on a word from forever ago.
I know, but I just feel like people are going to be like, it's a true crime podcast. And
I mean, complicit. The word complicit. Is that what you're saying?
No, but then later I said, I think we were trying to come up with the word accessory. And then I also realized I don't think that's correct either. So, Eva, please let me know.
Whatever the word is, that's
for
what
when
we
you
meant.
know about a murder, but you don't tell anybody.
When you have intel and now you're obligated to say something or else you are now part of the crime. Complicit,
God,
no?
No, maybe? I don't know. Okay, sorry. So, she lived in Quebec with her mother Yvonne, her 2 younger sisters, Maureen and Doreen, the twins, of course, and her younger brothers, Jojo and Stephen. So the whole family was very close with Sharron. She was a very warm-hearted older sister. Being the eldest, she took very good care of her younger siblings. She was extremely compassionate and wanted to be a veterinarian when she grew up.
Precious.
So sweet. And also something I wanted to be when I grew up. She was recognized in elementary school for her academics. She was a STEM girly. She was really good at math and science. In fact, she actually enrolled in like accelerated biology programs to get a jump start on her vet school ambitions. So in high school, she was taking like advanced biology courses, and she was also very active in the community. She was part of the Point St. Charles Boys and Girls Club when she was 6 and spent most of her free time there. It was actually considered like her second home. And she was also very, very reliable. Like I said, she's a very, very caring older sister. She would read to her little brothers every night and tell them stories. She was very good around the house. Basically, just the sweetest little angel that makes this story that much worse.
Yep. Sounds like it.
So, of course, now we get to the tragic part, which is that on the day before Easter in March 1975, Sharron spent the morning at home with her younger siblings while her mom went shopping for Easter dinner groceries. And the twin sisters, Maureen and Doreen, of course, felt they were too old to search for Easter eggs that year. Remember that year where you were like, this is like kiddie stuff, you know?
Same thing with trick-or-treating.
Yeah, which makes me sad.
I was shamed out of trick-or-treating. I never had
Me
a moment where I
too.
was like, I'm too old.
I never felt too old for trick-or-treating.
Me either. And one of the neighbors was like, oh, aren't you a little old? And I went, oh, well, I'm just going to go fucking jump into the river then. Thank you.
Right? I
Like,
felt the same way. And people were like, you're a high schooler. And I was like, but I love Halloween and candy.
Also, like, I was this height. If you've ever met me, I am tall. I was this height in 5th grade. So people saw me trick-or-treating and they were like, aren't you a little old? And I was like, no, I'm just a giant. Leave me alone. Like, what are you talking about?
Give me my milk time.
V505.
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna tell
That's how it
Blaze
felt.
to drive me to the hospital after this recording. Oh god.
That's probably how I looked, and I was like, give
grade.
me my M&Ms.
That's so sad. That's the saddest thing I ever heard. Oh my god.
But with Easter, I didn't really celebrate Easter a lot, so I think it was because I had such a love for Halloween, it hurt when I was too old for that. But with Easter, I was so removed from it that by the time I like went to an Easter egg hunt, I think I looked around and I was like, I think maybe this is for younger kids.
You were like stomping around the Easter
Just a giant and his very fragile eggs, just kind of
and all the
walking
toddlers
around.
were like, ah.
I was just red rovering them, just like knocking them down.
Why is that the funniest thing I've ever heard?
Just to give me my tarantula legs, to give just one step across the yard at a time.
Oh my god, it's traumatizing. Oh god, I'm so sorry, everyone. I do want to remind. I know everyone's like, we know why, because you took a weed gummy before you recorded.
I didn't.
I know you didn't, which is the only reason I'm like, this must actually be very funny because M's also laughing. Oh god, I don't want to say the sad parts.
Well,
I'm having such
that's
a good
our job,
time.
unfortunately.
Oh man.
We really did pick a weird career. It's like half the time I'm having so much fun, and the other half the time I just feel so uncomfortable and sad.
Right? I'm like crying, laughing, and 5 minutes I'm going to be crying.
There was one time we did a live show where I got the giggles right before the horrible part of our show. Like, remember that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was really
bad.
awkward.
I didn't know what to do. I just had to make people watch me go through the giggles
until
because I was like I can't laugh through the next part because we're about to say really awful things. I just couldn't stop laughing.
Pivot and just I don't know 180 it.
There was another time on stage where one of the worst things that could happen to you on stage. I choked on my own spit in front of 1,000 people.
You did. It was
Remember that?
bad.
So bad.
You couldn't like speak for like 5 straight minutes.
Yeah, we pulled it off. But in case you were wondering what a live show of ours is like, it's pretty not scripted, even though we claim it to be.
We can't control our bodily functions, apparently. Or Ed can't, at least.
I can't.
Okay, I'm so sorry about this. Maureen and Doreen are the light of my life, and when I hear that they're too old for an Easter egg hunt, I was just really sad about it. So
were they too tall, or were they too old or too tall?
They were.
Were they silent or silenced? You know,
that's a great question. You know what? TBD. It's in the air. It's up in the air. Okay, so Maureen and Doreen, they're like, we're too old to search for Easter eggs this year. But the younger brothers, Jojo and Steven, were still all about it. They were very excited about an egg hunt. So Sharron decided she was going to dye and decorate a couple dozen eggs to hide for the boys so they could have a happy Easter. She boiled some eggs, and her mom came home around 3 p.m. while Sharron was painting them for her younger brothers, which is so sweet. And she and her mother spent a little while in the kitchen talking about how much they loved spring and the, quote, bubbly feeling it gave them to see the world come back to life with the warmer weather.
No.
And I know. And that would be the last, one of the last conversations she ever had with her mother.
Oh.
So at 4:30 p.m., the reverend from the family's church was visiting before dinner, and Sharron was still painting eggs and asked her mom, I'm almost done with these eggs, but afterward I would love to read the boys a book about the Easter Bunny. Do we have any books around here about Easter? And the reverend who is visiting, he decides it's his turn to, throw his hat in the ring. And he goes, I have a great idea, Sharron. Why don't you instead tell your little brothers, instead of the Easter Bunny, why don't you tell them all about Christ's resurrection?
Oh, my.
This is not your place. She wants to read her brothers a book about the Easter Bunny. And this guy's like, I know. Why don't you tell them about God? Okay. You know what? Shut up. So the Reverend says, you should tell them about the resurrection story. My bet is that he's like, that's real magic. You don't need an Easter Bunny, So she says, okay, sure. I'll do that, Reverend. I'll tell them all about Jesus and his bloody death on the cross. So after he left, the family sat down to eat. It was Sharron, her siblings, her grandma, her mom, and her mom's friend Doug, and they had a good dinner. After dinner, Sharron's childhood best friend showed up to hang out for a bit while Sharron got ready to meet up with some other friends in town. The two girls went to different high schools, so they had separate friend groups, but they were still really close with each other. And Sharron agonized over what to wear that night. Her friends were teasing her because she kept changing outfits and couldn't decide. And finally, she settled on taking one of her mom's blouses, and she wore that out. But it was drizzling. It was raining a little bit. And so she considered wearing something different, but she was only walking 5 blocks. So in the end, she thought, no, this is fine. I'm just going to walk fast. No big deal. 5 blocks. So she was going to Marina's Restaurant, which was a pizzeria and a popular spot for local teenagers to gather. And this is where Sharron spent a lot of her time with her friends from school. She was also planning on meeting her boyfriend there, along with their friends. So her friend offered to walk Sharron to the restaurant, but Sharron was like, no, it's fine. It's only 5 blocks. And she went there all the time. So she said, no, thanks. It's fine. I'll walk myself. And just before 7 p.m., Sharron said one last goodbye to her mom, who said, goodbye, Sharron, be careful, which was the same thing Yvonne had always said to her daughter every time she left the house, and it had become a habit. So Sharron and her friend parted ways on the sidewalk outside the house, and Sharron headed off to Marina's Restaurant by herself at 7:15 p.m. So Sharron at this point is 16 years old, and she, on Saturdays, is allowed to stay out till pretty late. So she's usually out till 11 or 1 a.m. And her mom was fine with that as long as she knew where she was, which guess is fair. And Yvonne, her mother, described Sharron as a cautious girl, so she wasn't worried about her when she was out late, and said that Sharron went out of her way to avoid trouble and conflict with her peers, and she had never given her a reason to enforce a curfew, basically, because she either always came home on time or she always called if she was going to be late.
Sure.
So this night, of course, something is different. Sharron does not come home, nor does she call her mom. And of course, it's immediately obvious that something is wrong. In fact, Sharron's family soon learned that she never even made it to Marina's restaurant.
Shit, she never even made it 5 blocks? Oh my God.
Nope. She had somehow vanished along the 5-minute walk between her house and the pizzeria. 5 minutes, 5 blocks.
That's
Didn't
so scary.
even make it. It's terrifying. And this is from her house. Like, it's somewhere she walks from her house at age 16.
You know, there are a lot of times I have the thought, even when I lived in Boston or when I lived in different areas of California, eventually when some area feels like your neighborhood, you really do get like a false sense of like, oh, everything's fine on these few streets because I see them all the time. Totally. And then I would have moments where I'm like walking down the street and I'm like, oh no, like something really bad could happen right now. Like it's just jarring.
You kind of lose like your, yeah. I totally agree. And I think even as the parent, like as Yvonne in the situation, I wouldn't probably think twice about letting my 16-year-old, who's like very mature and responsible, walk 5 blocks, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, I feel like I was wandering around much younger than that in much more chaotic directions than 5 blocks. So yeah, it's just a really scary thought. How close to home it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't even that late. It was like 7:30, like a busy Saturday night. Okay, so someone, when they realized that we're not 100% sure, but we assume it's her mother, realized she was not home and called the police to report Sharron missing. And at this point, authorities launched a search. There was no sign of Sharron on the route she was supposed to take to Marina's. And so police rallied volunteers and students from Sharron's high school. People came out in droves to look for Sharron, but unfortunately 2 days went by with no leads, and papers began picking the story up. One headline, for example, read, "Girl 16 missing for 2 days." This was kind of just a story that was catching on in neighboring towns as well. Yvonne told the media that she knew something was terribly wrong, but of course, you know, now with the media attention, people are giving their hot takes and saying things like, oh, she must have run away, you know, because that's just what people assume about teenagers. But Yvonne went on air and said, absolutely not. She would never have run away. She left her bus pass, first of all, and all her money behind. And also, speaking to her friends had never heard Sharron say anything about running away. And also, she was just a genuinely very happy and well-adjusted girl and loved her family. So it didn't make any sense.
Right.
Descriptions of Sharron were published, encouraging readers to report any sightings. And yet another day passed with no sign of Sharron. Then on the 4th day since she had disappeared, a local beekeeper was out in a field and made a tragic discovery when he noticed the fence gate was open and went in to investigate. Behind the fence, he found Sharron deceased, and when authorities arrived, the medical examiner estimated that she had been dead for about 20 hours.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
There's something about within a 24-hour time frame. It's like, it was so close. She could have...
It's horrible. It's horrible, because that also means she was alive for several days.
Oh, my God, yeah.
She's been missing for 4.
Right.
So investigators theorized she must have been held somewhere for several days before she was killed and abandoned in the field. They found a branch clutched in her hand, and when They took a look at her body and at the environment. They determined that she was still alive when she had been brought to the field.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's incredibly dark, and I'm just so sorry. There was some tape dangling from Sharron's hair that she had chewed, which was evidence that she had been probably gagged.
Yeah.
It was also evident from a glance that she had been beaten really badly, and an autopsy revealed that she had been raped before suffering multiple skull fractures. Her jaw and cheek were also fractured. Her nose was broken. And I'm about to tell you how she ultimately passed away.
Okay.
She died of asphyxiation when the killer crushed her chest, likely with his knee. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And this was all in that field where he then just left her.
So do we think he planned to kill her, or was it a quote accident?
No, he intentionally killed her.
Oh my God.
By crushing her chest.
Oh my God.
So when this kind of last blow occurred, her lungs hemorrhaged and filled with blood. And that's how she ultimately officially passed away. So, of course, this is the most brutal, horrifying thing for anyone in town to imagine happening at all, let alone in their town so close to their homes. And they thought, who the hell in our community could be so heinous and could be capable of something like this? So, of course, authorities, this is number one priority, but they didn't really have much to go on. When they looked around, they found a single tire track in the snow near Sharron's body. They found one footprint. There was no snow or mud on Sharron's shoes, which meant she had probably been carried and placed there.
So she could have been like asleep or drugged or something, or just held to.
Probably just that she had been, held and tortured for several days, or yeah. I imagine she was probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Taken care of or.
Right.
Comforted.
Yeah. In a place where she could hold her own. Yeah. So there was also a trail of blood leading to Sharron's body, which made it appear as though she had been beaten in the vehicle before being dropped in the field. They also found her jeans on the ground a few feet away from her. Her underwear was hanging on a tree branch, which feels just extra like sicko. I don't know.
Yeah.
Leaving some sort of weird message. A men's shirt, probably used to restrain Sharron, was also dumped at the scene, and its size suggested that the suspect was roughly 6 feet tall, and the single footprint belonged to a size 8.5 men's shoe, and the footprint itself was pretty deep, which was another detail that led investigators to believe that this was a larger person. There was a theory that there were 2 men involved in the killing, but people weren't entirely agreed on that. The padlock on the gate had not been tampered with. It was unclear whether the gate was simply left unlocked or maybe if the killer had keys to the gate, which would have narrowed down obviously a suspect pool. And nobody in town, not one single person, came forward with information. So that was basically the entirety of clues or information they had to go on. So investigators believed somebody had to know something, as the saying goes, because Sharron had been abducted off a residential street, right down the street from her house.
Yeah.
On Saturday evening over Easter weekend, when all these people were home with their families and were out and about, but not a single person came forward. And so police were very, very, I don't know, just perplexed by this. So they questioned 38 people, but they got no closer to a single lead. And we don't really understand why, but Sharron's boyfriend was either never a suspect or he was ruled out really quickly. But there's no evidence that he was actually investigated for the
I wonder
murder.
if for like Easter break he was at his grandma's or something. Like there
yeah,
was
well, remember she was supposed to meet him that night, so I wonder if
right.
like he might have already been out with his friends,
Maybe just
and
enough
they're
people were like, I saw him at the
like
pizza
we were
place already.
together. Yeah, he couldn't have grabbed her. Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it would probably be easy to rule him out.
It sounds like it must have been someone she knew. If no one witnessed a struggle, or if they did see her with someone, it was someone she knew, so they never clocked it or something.
And that's the wildest part is they basically interviewed anyone they could think of who would know her, would be in the area, and they got nowhere closer to an answer. Very, very perplexing. So soon a troubling report came out about an attack that happened the same night Sharron disappeared, perhaps just minutes earlier.
Okay.
23. What?
I said, oh, okay.
Oh, I thought you said, hey. And I was like,
no. I was like, oh, we're onto something.
23-year-old Cheryl Roy was walking to the pharmacy to pick up diapers for her infant daughter when she passed a man she described as pretty normal looking, didn't ring any alarm bells or raise any red flags. And after they'd passed one another, she kind of was just going about her business, and she suddenly heard hurried footsteps getting louder and coming toward her. And she turned just in time to see that same quote-unquote normal man barreling toward her.
Oh, shit.
He shoved her against the wall of a building and put a knife to her neck. And Cheryl, realizing this man was not going to let her go, began to fight back. She actually got her hand and neck both cut in the struggle. And at this point, out of her mind, terrified, Cheryl told him to take her purse. But he told her, goose cam. He told her, I don't want your purse. I want you. I love you.
Oh, no. Ugh. So we've got a stalker situation? Maybe?
I guess so. I mean, she definitely didn't know who he was. So he shoved Cheryl to the ground and dragged her by her hair toward an empty lot. He told her in what she described as a low, calm voice, and I say that because that makes this just that much creepier. In a low, calm voice, he dragged her by her hair into an empty lot and said, "You're dead. You're not getting away from me. When I get through with you, I'll cut you to pieces."
Oh my God.
What the fuck? Whoa. It's just horrifying. So Cheryl fought and fought. The man at one point dropped his knife in the struggle, and Cheryl was able to kick it away. And she screamed through the entire attack, which lasted an excruciating 6 minutes. She screamed bloody murder until a group of local boys rushed to the scene, and Cheryl recognized one of the boys and called out to him specifically. And at this, the attacker jumped away from Cheryl and ran off, cutting through a lane that just so happened to be on Sharon's walking route to the pizzeria.
Oh my God. Okay.
And the time of that attack was 7 p.m.
Yep.
And she parted ways with her friend at 7:15. It's
that'll do it.
Horrifying. I mean, it's almost like, talk about butterfly effect, like the things that had to align for that intersection to happen just like that.
And imagine like the Cheryl. Imagine Cheryl's like guilt, like survivor's guilt of like, because I survived, another person got
like, right.
Which, like,
I
it's not
fought
her fault, but it's
not at all. And it's hard because you want to be like, of course, like Cheryl kicked ass and like fought hard and whatever, but that's not to say, Sharron
I
didn't.
would have frozen. So
right. And like, who knows? Maybe, I mean, she may have fought for life, but maybe she just wasn't as lucky. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
Oh my God.
So that was basically, obviously, a humongous break in the case. At least it was, it would have been.
Oh, what?
We'll get there. Okay.
Christine.
Well, remember when I said it was a formerly cold case?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
It hasn't gotten cold yet, but we'll get there.
So it hasn't even gotten warm again.
No, hasn't even gotten cold for the first time yet.
Jesus, oh my God. Okay.
So now they're thinking, okay, maybe Sharron's killer went after her right after going for Cheryl and failing that abduction. So Cheryl did say that her attacker was about 4 inches taller than her, which would be about 6'1", so that would have matched. Around 29 years old and white with blue eyes and a mustache. And he spoke English without a French accent, which is notable because we are in Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
She also noted he did not smell like alcohol, which I thought was interesting. I don't know.
Maybe it was her way of being like, it's not like he was drunk and he just freaked out.
Yeah, that's fair. After the attack, Cheryl actually lost her voice for 2 whole days. She couldn't speak because she had screamed so much. But days went by and then months with, even though this huge break in the case, or so they thought, had happened, there was no news on Sharon's killer or Cheryl's attacker, and the case went cold. And then years passed, decades passed, and we arrive in 2004. So this is 29 years after the murder. Somebody calls in a tip to the police about a garage behind an apartment building in Sharon's neighborhood. And although the details of the tip are vague, police reopened the case and were reportedly searching the garage for DNA or maybe any other evidence that Sharron had been held inside this garage.
Oh, shit. Okay. Why did someone call in a tip?
So someone basically just called in a tip and said, like, regarding the Sharron Prior case, you should look into that garage.
Weird. That feels like there's context to that that I'm not getting.
Very weird. Yes.
Okay. Like that in my mind, it feels like someone just moved in, happened to know that case, and then was like, "Here's my garage. Do you want to play around in there and see what you find?" It feels like there's got to be some
play around in there.
I'm like, was there a note or something? I don't know.
I don't know, and I wonder. I wonder if they're just not releasing the information. Like maybe there is a more specific tip. Like maybe somebody called in and said, like, "Oh, my grandpa used to live in that house, and he just died, and he was super creepy. Check out his garage." I don't know.
Yeah.
Like maybe Canadian laws, they're just not releasing the specific tip. I have no idea.
Sure, but that makes sense. Like maybe you heard something creepy happen there, so maybe just like
maybe you just you heard some story or who knows. But yeah, it said it was a very vague tip, or at least we have very vague details about what the tip said. But apparently, it was enough to get them to reopen the case and go and search the garage. So Yvonne, who was still alive, this was Sharon's mother, told reporters that she had waited 29 years for a break in the case and that she had never lost hope. She wanted to look her daughter's killer in the eyes and demand answers. But unfortunately, despite everyone's kind of excitement about this, the search of the garage yielded no new evidence. But the case stayed open now. So now that they had opened it, at least, they could continue investigating it. And they offered a $10,000 reward for information. So in 2012, Yvonne told reporters, "I was 37 years old when this happened to my daughter. You can count. I'm 74 now. I can't believe that I'm still waiting for this to be solved."
Oh,
ooh,
that's awful.
So twice her life.
I was going to say, double. That's like twice her life. Yeah.
Horrifying. Police pursued over 100 suspects. They were all dead ends, and it just seemed less and less likely that Yvonne would ever get the answers she so desperately needed. But do we know what solved this case? What finally cracked it wide open?
Staples in the butt. What? I don't know. What?
That would be a really good Mad Libs answer. Next time you play Mad Libs, staples in the butt.
Was it... I don't know. Did a witness finally come forward? What?
Genetic genealogy.
Oh, of course. Yes.
Genetic genealogy. There we go. Yes. Just like Golden State Killer, advances in DNA were able to finally get a break going in this case. Investigators were able to use samples taken from the men's shirt that had been used to bind Sharron, and some DNA also from her own clothes that she had been wearing. And they were able to search through ancestry databases, and they found potential matches in the Romine family of West Virginia.
Oh.
So police started digging through criminal records and eventually honed in on a man named Franklin Maywood Romine. And Franklin, who had been born in 1946, of course had a long history of violence and had escaped West Virginia Penitentiary in 1967. He had then bounced back and forth between Canada and West Virginia to avoid capture by police. And in 1974, he broke into a house and raped a woman in Parkersburg, West Virginia. And he was arrested and imprisoned for that, but was released on bond. And he fled once again to Canada, where he lived for a while, right near Sharron Prior.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So several months after Sharron was killed, Franklin was arrested in Canada and extradited to West Virginia, where he was sentenced to 5 to 10 years for the previous rape that he had been arrested for. He was released and then died in Canada in 1982 under vague circumstances. So we kind of don't know what the hell happened, but he died in 1982. His family buried him in Putnam County, West Virginia. And of course, his history made him a major person of interest. And it turned out that his car matched the tire track, that one single tire track found near Sharron's body.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So solved?
Almost. So his appearance at the time also matched Cheryl's description of her attacker. And Franklin's 2 brothers volunteered their own DNA samples, and according to court documents, the results showed that it is, quote, 140 million times more likely to come from the brother of Noah and Michael Romine than any other random person in the Caucasian population.
Holy shit. Okay.
So yes, to answer your question, fucking solved.
Wow.
Although they believed their brother was guilty, both men had hoped their own DNA was enough to confirm Franklin's crime. Franklin had once attempted to rape one of his brother's wives.
Oh my God.
And after that happened, understandably, the family kind of cut ties with him.
Uh-huh. Quite understandable.
But they did not want, despite this, cutting him out of the family, he was still buried right near their mother. And so they did not want his body to be exhumed because doing so would probably disturb her grave.
Gotcha.
And so they were very adamant that they did not want his body to be exhumed. But investigators kind of had that overridden, and they promised to protect the other grave in the process. And if they did damage it, they promised to restore it completely. I don't think that ever became an issue, but
okay.
Fun fact.
Well, that's nice of them to offer, I guess.
I thought so too. I was like, that's fair point. Yeah. Advances in DNA science allowed specialists to retrieve a viable sample from Franklin's bones, which is just crazy. And it was a match. They had found Sharron's killer. So this was the news the Priors had been waiting for nearly 48 years.
Oh my God.
Such a long time.
And I was going to say, did her mom at least get to hear about this?
Yes, she was alive. I'm so happy to tell you she was alive. Because back in 2004, she was so enthusiastic that, like, this could be the answer, and then after that, it looked like nothing would ever happen. So she did get the answers she had been waiting for. She finally knew who had killed her daughter nearly half a century earlier. And thankfully, the family had never given up hope. They had been running a blog and website in Sharron's name, where they would post updates and write about her. A scholarship has since been founded in Sharron's memory. And one of Sharron's sisters addressed Sharron while speaking with interviewers, saying, "You may never have come back to our house on Congregation Street that weekend, but you have never left our hearts and you never will. We love you, Sharron. May you now truly rest in peace."
Wow.
And that's
at least it was
no
solved.
longer cold case of Sharron Prior.
I guess that's all you can ask for after literally 50 years.
I know. It gives hope though, you know, that these advances in technology might keep coming.
Yeah. Ooh. Well, good storytelling, Christine. Bad story, good storytelling.
Same to you.
How are you feeling? What's the update on your everything?
I mean, I'm definitely feeling pretty chill now with the
weed
Delta 9 gummy.
Okay.
But actually it really does work. My joints don't hurt anymore.
Oh, you poor thing. It's like having a podcast with my grandma. Just
You've always said that about me.
Yeah. Okay, well I'm glad you're feeling good. Are you up for an after hours?
Oh, absolutely. Let's go party. Yeah, if you guys want to join us for our after hours chat, which is usually, well, actually it's kind of chaotic, but it's meant to be true crime paranormal updates. Sometimes goes a little off the rails. It ends up being
just general updates, personal updates. Sometimes true crime themes, sometimes paranormal themes, sometimes just us hanging out.
Sometimes we take a lot of times we take personality quizzes, or we like guess each other's, like we play like newlywed style games, or
we tell secrets.
We tell secrets. That's true. We read M's kids club club rules.
The admissions,
the manifesto is what I called it. Or well, we played your Jeopardy game last one of those times too.
Oh yeah. All right. Well,
anyway,
if you want
it's a good time.
Continue on our bullshit. Yeah, you are more than welcome to. And I guess come see us on tour. We're halfway through our tour, so if you want a chance at seeing On the Rocks before we have a whole new show, you've got about 10 shows left.
Clock's ticking.
And
that's
why
we
drink.